I, Janine, 28 years old, finally thought I had escaped my family's shadow. I just bought my first home, a $1.5 million modern beauty in Buckhead, Atlanta. I invited my family to the housewarming, hoping to finally earn their respect. But as I served champagne, my sister Monique raised her glass and said, "Your $1.8 million house is perfect for my kids." My mother, Brenda, chimed in, "She's right, Janine. Pack your bags." The guests went silent. I just smiled, pulled out my phone and connected it to the smart TV. "Remember when you kicked me out at 16? I bought this house with the inheritance you tried to steal." Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you've ever had to fight for what is rightfully yours. The screen flickered to life behind me, and I watched my mother's face drain of color. That's when I knew I had her. See, what you need to understand is that my family has always been about appearances. Designer bags, luxury cars, private school tuition for Monique's kids, all financed by a lie that lasted 12 years. A lie that started the night my father died. I was 16 years old when it happened. Cancer took him in 3 months, aggressive, merciless, final. I remember sitting beside his hospital bed, holding his hand while my mother and sister were at some charity gala, taking photos for Instagram. Even then, they couldn't be bothered to show up. "Janine," he'd whispered that last night, his voice barely audible over the beeping machines. "I've made sure you're taken care of. Your grandmother's trust, it's all there. Don't let them." He never finished that sentence. The monitors flatlined, and my world shattered into a million pieces. I cried alone in that hospital room for 40 minutes before my mother finally answered her phone. At the funeral, Brenda wore Chanel and cried perfect tears that didn't smudge her makeup. Monique, 23 at the time, stood beside her looking appropriately sad while texting her boyfriend. I wore a black dress from Target and felt like I was drowning. That night, as I sat in my childhood bedroom surrounded by memories of the only parent who ever loved me, my mother knocked once and entered without waiting for permission. "Janine, we need to talk about your living situation." I looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" "You're 16 now. Almost an adult. Your father's life insurance will cover Monique's graduate school and the mortgage, but we simply can't afford to keep supporting you. It's time you learn to be independent." I remember laughing. Actually laughing. Because surely this was a joke. Surely my mother wasn't kicking me out 3 days after we buried my father. "Mom, I'm still in high school. Where am I supposed to go?" She shrugged, actually shrugged, and placed a check for $5,000 on my dresser. "That should get you started. Your father would want you to stand on your own 2 feet. My father would want me dead before he'd want this," I thought. But I didn't say it. I just stared at that check, at my mother's cold eyes, and something inside me crystallized into steel. That's the thing about betrayal. It either breaks you or forges you into something unbreakable. I chose the latter. Now, standing in my multi-million-dollar living room with 50 guests watching, I played the first video on my smart TV. It was security footage from my father's attorney's office, dated 2 weeks after the funeral. The timestamp read 2:17 p.m., and there was my mother, walking into a conference room with Monique beside her. The audio was crystal clear. "Miss Carter, I must say I'm confused," the attorney's voice echoed through my living room. "Your late husband was very specific about the trust fund established for Janine. The funds from her grandmother's estate, approximately $2.3 million, are to be held until her 25th birthday, with educational expenses paid directly." "About that," my mother interrupted, leaning forward in her chair. "Janine is troubled. She's been acting out, experimenting with drugs. We've decided it's best if she doesn't know about the money. For her own protection, of course." I watched my mother lie with the ease of someone who'd practiced. Watched Monique nod along, playing the concerned sister. "We'd like to be named conservators of the trust, to manage it on her behalf." The attorney had hesitated. "This is highly irregular. Janine would need to be declared incompetent, and she's a minor in your care. The proper channel would be—" "We'll get the paperwork," Monique said smoothly. "Whatever's needed. We just want what's best for our Janine." The video ended. The silence in my living room was deafening. I turned to face my mother, who had gone from pale to gray. Monique stood frozen, champagne glass trembling in her hand. "That paperwork you got," I said quietly, my voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Those medical records declaring me mentally unfit? The ones from Dr. Patterson?" I clicked to the next video. This one showed a restaurant, my mother having lunch with a man in his 60s. Dr. Patterson was happy to talk to investigators, I continued. "Especially after I showed them the $50,000 you paid him to falsify psychiatric evaluations for a teenager he'd never even met. He's lost his medical license, by the way, facing fraud charges. Federal ones." My mother's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "But here's the beautiful part," I said, and I could feel tears burning behind my eyes. Not sad tears, but the tears that come with vindication after years of pain. The trust had a clause. If anyone attempted to defraud me of my inheritance, they would forfeit any claim to my father's estate and be liable for triple damages. I pulled up a legal document on the screen, a court judgment dated 3 months ago. "That's $6.9 million you owe me, Mother, plus the original $2.3 million, plus 12 years of investment returns that you spent on Monique's lifestyle, her kids' private schools, your cars, your vacations, your country club memberships, all of it funded by money meant for the daughter you threw away like garbage." Monique dropped her glass. It shattered on my white marble floor, champagne spreading like blood. "Janine, you don't understand," she started. "Don't I?" I turned to her, and 12 years of rage finally had somewhere to go. "Help me understand, Monique. Help me understand how you watched Mom kick me out. How you drove past me working double shifts at Waffle House while you posted pictures from Paris. How you got married in a $100,000 wedding wearing a Vera Wang dress bought with my inheritance while I slept on a friend's couch. We thought," Monique's voice cracked. "You didn't think. You just didn't care. Because to you, I was always less than. The unwanted daughter. Dad's favorite, which made me your enemy." The memories were flooding back now, sharp and vivid. That first night after Mom kicked me out, I'd stayed with my best friend Keisha. Her mother, Ms. Patricia, had taken one look at me standing on her doorstep with 2 garbage bags of clothes and pulled me into her arms. "Baby, what happened?" I couldn't even explain it. How do you tell someone that your mother chose money over you? That your sister watched it happen and said nothing? Ms. Patricia let me stay for 2 months, until I could get on my feet. I finished high school while working 40 hours a week at Waffle House, sometimes pulling all-nighters before exams. I remember studying calculus at 3 a.m. with coffee-stained textbooks, my feet aching from standing, knowing that one bad grade could ruin my chance at a scholarship. I got a full ride to Georgia State. Not the Ivy League school my father had dreamed of, but I made it work. Business administration, because I never wanted to be financially vulnerable again. I graduated with a 3.9 GPA, while working 2 jobs and sleeping 4 hours a night. And through it all, my family was there, living their best lives on my stolen inheritance. I saw Monique's wedding on Instagram. Saw my mother's posts from Italy, from Dubai, from Bora Bora. Saw my nephew's first day at Lovett School, tuition $35,000 a year. Saw Christmas mornings with mountains of presents, birthday parties with ponies and magicians. They never called. Never checked if I was alive or dead. Never cared. But I saw everything. And I remembered. "You want to know the real twist?" I said now, looking at the 50 guests who had come expecting cocktails and small talk, but got a reckoning instead. I didn't even know about the trust until 6 months ago. I clicked to another document on the screen. A letter, written in my father's handwriting. When I turned 25, I got a notification from the trust fund. Except there was no money, just debt and legal paperwork showing my mother as conservator. I hired a lawyer, and we started digging. That's when I found this. The letter filled the screen, and I read it aloud, my voice breaking. "My dearest Janine, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and you've reached your 25th birthday. First, know that you were the greatest joy of my life. Your mother and I, we grew apart long ago. Monique was her daughter in every way that mattered. But you, my brilliant girl, you were mine. Your grandmother left this money specifically for you, not the family. She saw what I saw, your strength, your intelligence, your heart. She made me promise to protect it from your mother, who she never trusted. I've set up safeguards, but I need you to know. If anything happens to this trust, if anyone tries to take what's yours, fight back. You have every legal protection I could build into the documents. Don't let them make you small. Don't let them win. I love you forever and always. Dad. By the time I finished reading, half the guests were crying. My mother was sitting on my designer couch, head in her hands. Monique was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. My father knew, I said softly. He knew Mom would try this. He built a fortress around my inheritance, and it took you 12 years to trigger all the alarms. 12 years of fraud, of forgery, of lies. And every single one is documented. I walked over to my mother, stood above her, and waited until she looked up at me. You gave me $5,000 and told me to disappear. So I did. I worked myself half to death, put myself through college, built a career in commercial real estate from absolutely nothing. And when I found out what you'd done, I didn't just cry about it. I hired forensic accountants. I hired lawyers. I built a case so airtight that the judge took exactly 40 minutes to rule in my favor. Janine, please, my mother whispered. The house you're living in? I continued. It's mine now. Part of the judgment. You have 30 days to vacate. The cars, the country club membership, all of it. Seize to pay your debt. Monique's house, the one you helped her buy with my money? The bank's foreclosing next month. Monique made a sound like a wounded animal. My kids will learn that actions have consequences, I said coldly. The same lesson I learned at 16. Maybe they'll be stronger for it. One of the guests, an older woman I'd invited from the junior league, stepped forward. Janine, I have to ask. Why invite them here? Why not just handle this privately? I looked around the room at all the people watching. Some shocked, some sympathetic, some clearly enjoying the drama. My mother's friends, her social circle, the people she'd spent 12 years impressing with her lifestyle. Because she cares what these people think more than she ever cared about me, I said simply. And I wanted her to lose everything the same way she took everything from me. In front of the people whose opinions she values. I turned back to my mother. You taught me something important, Mom. You taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. Who loves you when you have nothing. Who celebrates your success without trying to take it. I gestured to a couple standing near the kitchen. That's Ms. Patricia and Keisha. The family who took me in when mine threw me out. They're the ones I bought this house for. They live in the guest house out back, and I'll never charge them a dime. That's what family does. Ms. Patricia was crying, and Keisha was grinning through her tears. You wanted my house, I said to Monique. You've always wanted what was mine. Even when we were kids, you couldn't stand that Dad loved me. So you allied with Mom, made sure I knew I was unwanted. And when the chance came to get rid of me entirely, you took it. I was young, Monique whispered. I didn't understand. You were 23. Old enough to know better. Old enough to have a conscience. You just didn't care. I walked to the front door and opened it. The cool Atlanta evening air rushed in. Get out. My mother stood slowly, her designer dress that probably cost $5,000 suddenly looking cheap. Monique followed, mascara running down her face. At the door, my mother turned back. Janine, don't, I said. There's nothing you can say. No apology that will undo 12 years. No explanation that makes it okay. You made your choices. Now live with them. They left. I watched through the window as they got into my mother's Mercedes, the one that would be repossessed by the end of the month. Watched them drive away from my house, my life, my hard-won peace. When I turned back, the guests were silent, waiting to see what I'd do next. I picked up my champagne glass, the one Monique had tried to toast with before her world imploded. So, I said, forcing a smile that became real as I said it. Who wants the grand tour? The party continued, but different now. People approached me one by one, sharing their own stories of family betrayal, of fighting for what was theirs, of surviving when survival seemed impossible. A woman named Diane told me about being written out of her father's will by a stepmother. Marcus, a lawyer, offered his card and said if I ever needed anything he'd be there. But it was Miss Patricia who found me later, standing alone on my balcony, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. You okay, baby girl? I turned to her, this woman who'd given me everything when my own mother gave me nothing. I don't know, I admitted. I thought I'd feel triumphant, vindicated. But mostly I just feel tired. She put her arm around me. That's because revenge isn't the victory. Surviving was the victory. Building this life, becoming this woman, that's the victory. Tonight was just the closing credits. I wanted her to hurt the way she hurt me. She does, Ms. Patricia said softly. She lost her daughter 12 years ago and was too proud or too foolish to realize it. Tonight she just finally had to face it. But baby, you can't let that hurt consume you. You've got too much life ahead of you to spend it looking back. I leaned into her, this woman who'd been more of a mother in 12 years than Brenda had been in 16. Thank you, I whispered. For everything. For saving me. You saved yourself, Janine. I just gave you a couch to sleep on. Everything else, the strength, the determination, the success, that was all you. 3 months later, I was in my home office when my lawyer called. Janine, we've received an offer. Your mother wants to settle the remaining debt with a payment plan. She sold the house, liquidated her retirement accounts. She's asking for leniency from the court. What do you think? I asked. I think you've won. The question is what winning looks like for you now. I thought about it for a long time. Thought about 16-year-old me with 2 garbage bags of clothes. Thought about working all-night shifts and studying until my eyes burned. Thought about every birthday, every holiday, every milestone celebrated without family. Accept the payment plan, I said finally. But I want one condition. She has to attend financial counseling and prove she's working to rebuild her life before I forgive a single dollar of interest. She needs to understand what it means to start from nothing. That's generous. That's closure. I corrected. I'm not doing this for her. I'm doing it so I can move forward without this weight. And I did move forward. I dated. I traveled. I threw parties in my beautiful house and filled it with people who loved me for who I was, not what I could give them. Monique reached out once, 6 months after the housewarming. A text message. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I needed to say it. I was selfish and cruel, and I will regret it forever. I hope someday you can forgive me, but I understand if you can't. You deserved better. You deserved everything. I never responded. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Some wounds, once inflicted, leave permanent scars. But I didn't block her number either. Because maybe someday, when the anger had faded completely, I might be ready to talk. Or maybe not. Either way, it would be my choice. My choice. My life. My terms. On the 1-year anniversary of buying my house, I threw another party. This time, it was intimate. Just Ms. Patricia, Keisha, Marcus who'd become a good friend, Diane from that first party, and a few other people who'd become my chosen family. We sat on my balcony as the sun set over Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange. I want to propose a toast, I said, raising my glass. To everyone who's ever been told they weren't enough. To everyone who's been betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect them. To everyone who's had to build themselves from ashes. Here, Keisha said, grinning. You don't get to choose your family, I continued. But you do get to choose what you do when they fail you. You can let it destroy you, or you can use it to forge yourself into something stronger. Something better. Something unbreakable. I looked at each face around me, these people who'd shown me what real love looked like. I spent 12 years thinking I'd lost everything when my mother kicked me out. But the truth is, she freed me. She freed me to become this person, to build this life, to find this family. So here's to the people who tried to break us. Thank you for failing. We're still here. We're still standing. And we're just getting started. We clinked glasses as the last light faded from the sky. And I felt something I hadn't felt in 12 years. Peace. Real deep, unshakable peace. I was Janine Carter, 28 years old, owner of a $1.5 million house that I bought with money stolen from me and reclaimed through sheer determination. Daughter of a woman who betrayed me and a father who loved me. Sister to someone who chose wrong and still had to live with it. But most importantly, I was myself. Finally, Completely, unapologetically myself. And that was worth more than any inheritance. That was worth everything. Drop a comment below if you've ever had to fight for what's yours. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in justice. And remember, they can take your money, your home, your name, but they can never take your power to rebuild. Asterisk asterisk. You're stronger than they'll ever know. This is Janine signing off. And I'm just getting started.